Muted real quick, but we are back. Moose, take it away. Never mind, I will start. We are heading into game two. I mean, just nothing wants this AML finals to go right, but finally we got Moose back. What do you think about going into game two? What do we got to switch up here?
Well, I'm still under the belief that I don't think that agency have the luxury to go for a mid to late game composition. You've got to find ways to be able to get out of the early game without giving away too much. You saw how that turned out in game one. Akuma was just able to snowball like nobody's business, and it just made it impossible for the agency to ever be able to recover. At the end of the game, we were seeing that 2 or 3 of Akuma's members were still able to take out the full 5-man squad of the agency and then still be able to finish the game. So I want to see some more early game prowess coming out of the agency. You can't be dying in laning phase 3 to 4 times. You can't be giving over big CS advantages. You've got to try to go for every one of those neutral objectives and get to that mid game with an even gold state and an even item state.
Yeah, and if you are going to be fighting in the lanes, you got to pick stuff that at least has a chance to maybe get a couple of kills, maybe fight back. Because if we fully index into the mid game and we try and build early to get there and then just maybe play around banning out scaling options for Akuma, like we mentioned, then you got to execute it. Like, I think they should really go for like the simplest stuff we can do. Let's get ourselves some point and clicks. Let's get ourselves some Garens. Let's get ourselves some Mel. Let's get ourselves some, Jinx, and then just put some sort of mid laner that's going to fight early, a jungler. Like, we see a lot of junglers that struggle in competitive, but 1v1 are incredible. Let Broken try and get you through this game. They've been one of the best performing players on this agency roster. And I think also really index harder into Dopa. Like, Azir is a great champion. Azir is a great pick. But when the Azir's 2-0 and the rest of your team is like 0-4, the Azir can't fix your draft. So give Dopa something that's going to be able to impact the map early.
And we're going to get to see what this draft is here as we're getting it now from our producer. Let's go ahead and jump into the actual draft phase. I will confirm that the bans that we saw in game one are going to be the same bans that we're going to be seeing here in game two. Trendemir, Gwen, and Zyra going to get taken away from Akuma. Akuma is going to be taking away Nocturne, Orianna, and the Pantheon. And now we get to go ahead and jump into the draft. Tristana, first pick on a pretty good B1 pick. I love to see it. Going to be in response. Akuma's going to go with the Jinx and the Aphelios. Some really strong range there, some pretty strong burst potential, ability to clear waves, especially in the mid game. But now that's what I want to see. J4 coming out from the agency. That is a champion that can have some impact in the early game.
Absolutely, especially into the immobile champions picked by Akuma. Already off to a much better draft. You use that first pick to get flexibility instead of, like last game, they picked Jhin Vi. Now, essentially, your entire composition is laid out. You got to play engage. You got to follow up the Vi. Now, with that Tristana, they do kill the flex rather quickly, but you're seeing the mid and the AD carry. That's where the Tristana is going to go. So you can pick right away what you want. The Garen ends up going to Akuma. The opposite team I was suggesting take it ended up taking it. The Jarvan's going to have an easy time with the Jinx, with the Hui. The new pick, I really feel like Violet is right where they want to be. Like, just pick me stuff that can get around the map quickly. I will be in every single lane. I will be affecting all of your lanes. The Nautilus paired up with Aphelios, this is one of the most standard lanes that we saw when Aphelios was super meta. And Alistair, probably best Aphelios in the AML, plays this champion super well. I actually love this Vladimir pick for Terry Tinkle. You got ranged into melee, you have sustainability. It will truly be a Terry Tinkle masterclass if he ends up being able to die multiple times in this lane.
I agree. Like, if you are dying multiple times against a Garen, it means that you're overextending in lane. You're not warding, and you're not using that sanguine pool to be able to get out. Things that Vladimir is able to do is being able to escape, play a little bit riskier, and be able to sustain in that lane thanks to their amazing amount of lifesteal that they're able to produce throughout the laning phase and even throughout the engagement. And if you're able to find a great Hema Plague, which you could have happen with the CC that you've got from the J4 Nautilus and heck, even the Aphelios, you could be dealing burst damage to multiple members very quickly here. I love seeing that pickup from the agency. Akuma, they've drafted something that can ramp up moving into the mid to late game. Jinx, I think, is still going to be doing a pretty good job at CSing in the early game, especially paired up with that Thresh. You threaten kills thanks to that, thanks to death sentence. If you're able to land it next to those chompers, Tristana's going to be in trouble if they get hit. And Nunu, I'm curious to see how this Nunu is going to play out against the J4. I feel like it can definitely go either way, and so I'm gonna need to see whether or not Violet can continue to keep up that success of building that momentum and building that snowball, pun intended, here in game 2.
Yeah, I think the decision was most likely that Jarvan wants to gank a lot early. So let's pick a jungler that can really punish that, take away camps. And you saw how much of an advantage Violet was able to build in game 1. And that was in a matchup where both junglers are ganking. Neither one has a great clear speed, but the Poppy was just able to get so far ahead, ganking more so than the Vi, it felt like. But Agency did what we asked. They picked early game. They picked a comp that has early game options. Nautilus Jarvan, you got so much CC so quickly into the game. Terry is a very safe matchup here. And when we get to those dragon fights, having 2 AD carries makes those dragon fights feel way better earlier into the game if they're able to be kept safe.
And we'll see if they are able to get kept safe here. We're going to go ahead and jump into the spec delay in just a moment. Let's do the Dragon Draft. It was a Mountain Soul for the 5th time this season, and that is another point for you. At this point now, you've won the Dragon game, so we're doing the rest of this just for fun. I'm going to go with Ocean Soul. What the heck?
So, well, to bring this home, I'm going to go with my lucky charms that got me this far. We're going Hex Tech and we're going Chem Tech.
I'm going Mountain, and I'm going to go with Cloud. So I'm going to give you the almighty Infernal Soul this time here to round out game 2. I mean, if it's a Cloud Soul, that's going to be, I think, a really fun game to watch. I think Ocean or Infernal Soul as well, if you're able to get that burst damage. So we'll see what the Dragon is in just a bit. Folks, well, we are getting into that spectator delay, and we are going to be back into game 2 in just a moment. We want to thank you, the viewers, for watching week in and week out. Please subscribe and join the Discord channel so you guys can stay up to date on all the content that's coming in for the next AML and Aegis split coming up in just a few weeks. I believe signups are still coming in for some of these teams. So if you guys want to be part of this next league, make sure that you are up to date by following and having notifications on in the Discord. Find your team, potentially find yourself here in the grand finals of one of these Aegis splits. And with that, we're going to take it to a quick break. We'll see you soon. welcome back, everybody. We are now here for the start of Game 2. Game 1 handedly going over to Akuma. You guys, I think, got to see a bit of what happened in Game 1 with Violet being able to get that first blood against Broken. I think that was just an indication of everything that happened in that game. Violet just being absolutely dominant in the jungle, as Whistley is going to be seeing all 5 members of the agency there going to get a flash for their efforts.
Great play, great flash, great discipline to know how to hug the wall and make sure that if you can't find someone in the side brush, you still are able to pick off anyone and try. And great strategy. Like we've talked about so many times, they have to get ahead early to mitigate some of these individual gaps that may be there, as you just mentioned. If you head on over to the Aegis Discord, you can see how Violet stole 2 camps and solo killed Broken under their mid-tier 2 turret. So I like that early presence of mind to try and find any advantage they can. I'm also confused as we load into the game, and it seems like Terry Tinkle has a 0-0-0 stat line. I don't believe I've ever seen that before. This might be the best EA ever.
That's a read right there. In Terry Tinkle for blood, not filth here at the start of Game 2. Now has the Doran's Ring, 2 health potions. We'll keep an eye on that stat line throughout the game. As they're going up against a Garen. No Ghost on this Garen, but does have the Phase Rush, Flash, Ignite. I think really trying to go for those kills in the laning phase and then beyond.
Yeah, I think if I was in the, the metaphoric locker room for Akuma, I'm pretty sure that Cheeks is just saying, literally pick me anything, don't worry about me in draft, let's pick around the other players, I've got this. It's an amount of confidence that gets you to this point in the finals, but at the same time, like we mentioned last game, like we're 2 minutes in, last game, we already had kills on the board at this point, we already had very dangerous wave states, but for all the flack we give them, Terry Tinkle locks into the next champ select, gets himself a champion that they can pilot, and gets into the next game completely ready to go. And we've seen agency series where he gets down crazy, and he always contributes later. They always are able to find plays. I mean, even in the last game, Terry Tinkle was the one who ended up getting the shutdown onto Wistfully. So, I mean, as much as I give flack, you've got to give kudos to a player that's able to come into this game after game and be able to contribute on a winning team.
Yeah, I mean, tenacity is a key stat that players need to have, and it doesn't matter what rank of play you are in, as Reducey fails being able to pick up a nice death sentence onto Alistair, going to be forcing out half of their health. Going to be paired up with a Dredge line, as Broken is going to find Violet in the jungle. Violet was able to pick up the Scuttle Crab and did have to expend their flash, as Broken was able to get a nice flag and drag. Meanwhile, as we take a look at the mid lane, we get to see how Dopa is going to be able to do against On Your Chest.
I mean, flash forward from Cheeks. I mean, he saw the angle. Ignite burning. Broken is there. Maybe they try and bait. Is warded though. In that bottom lane, as we're back, you saw the both hooks go in, able to just pick up some minions with those hook plays as Cheeks is walking forward. Ladies and gentlemen, just an FYI, if you're listening, you will have only my voice for a little while, as Terry Tinkle utilizes that Sanguine Pool, has to walk out from Nunu, going to be able to get the kill. Broken's going to try to respond, as that was your first glimpse of what a Jack play-by-play cast sounds like. I promise it will not last all too long, as Lonry in the mid lane pushing some of that early zone advantage. Alistar getting caught again by the Thresh hook and then flayed onto another trap. Barrier is proc, able to get a lot of damage down onto Fails, but is killed eventually. Excited is procced, and while Cheeks will go down, Wistfully able to walk down Sting to try and make that 1-for-1 worth even more by pushing in the wave, as Dopa will jump in but has a level disadvantage. The way ult comes out, but there's no mana for any follow-up abilities, and there are no junglers within range to make a play. So in the end, it is just a bit of a uneven trade as Dopa tries to regain some of the XP loss. Nunu is coming in. The sweep will slow Dopa, but unable to be killed. It does get chunked low after that snowball hits, but will not die. I want to go back to that bottom lane. Alistair is playing extremely cocky, getting hit by multiple death sentences in an effort to avoid giving over CS. I don't know if it's worth it, especially after seeing the death come through, but is able to buy that BF sword on the base. So they're going to have a somewhat even lane to come back to. Symbiotic Souls on Nautilus. Cheeks looking for the kill as that ultimate execute. Is figuring he can time it better than Terry can time the pool, as Terry tries to just heal up here. Cheeks just going again and again trying to get it. Will he find the execute damage? He will, but will he die to the ultimate? Yes, he will. It's a 1-for-1, and with flash expended from Garen, we'll have to find if it's worth it or not, as Greatest Snowball ever comes in, knocks up Alistair. Sting is just too far forward, gets killed instantly. Nunu pops that ultimate. Everyone is slowed. It's going to be so difficult for Alistair to get out, and they will not, as the death sentence pulls broken back in. The flash out will come through to save them. And just in time, Moose, you didn't miss much, buddy. Just some great Akuma gaming.
Oh no, what happened? It was 0-0 when I left, which was literally 2.5 minutes ago, and now it's 2-5. What the heck?
Violet got out onto the map, started making plays. We had a 1-for-1 top, but I mean, I said it earlier, Alistair has decided that it's worth it to get hit by a Thresh Hook if it means that they will deny a cannon minion. Now, that has resulted in 2 deaths, so I don't know if it's worth it, but essentially that is what you missed as we zoom out to see no dragons taken and no grubs taken either.
You know, unironically though, as we go talking to me, I was telling you that I had a FedEx order, but actually it was my Zen Market order that I had gotten from my partner. I got him a couple of Bandai toys for his birthday. So I'll show you guys on stream if you want to see them. But anyway, shout out to Zen Market, and shout out to Violet and Whistly, both 2-0. The 2 players that we were saying were the best in game 1, showing up again here in game 2.
Yeah, and it will slide somewhat under the radar, but Lonry also the player bearing the name on your chest, piloting the wave very well, got in a bit of a sticky situation with no mana, but was able to chunk out, almost was able to facilitate a kill onto Tristana. And I feel like when you have such high level players on your bot and on your top side and in the jungle, if you're able to just kind of stay stable mid game and maybe not be as volatile, sure, you might not get as crazy leads as the other players get, but you're always going to be reliable. You're going to be able to be a player that they can index into and put on some of these zoning champions that are more so insurance policies to make sure you have damage even if Jinx potentially gets behind. So it's just really impressive to see this all come together after a season full of hard work.
And this is also one of those things too, where you get, as my dog decided to not like what happened there in the mid lane. It's also one of these. It's also one of the games where, different than other games in leagues, this is a game where you are fighting for money, over $1,000 on the line for the grand finalist. So you definitely want to be putting out all the stops here in this one, as Jinx is going to be going for the death sentence. Sting and Alistair are there. Death sentence landing. Oh my god. As Jinx, the top lane, Garen is going to be able to take out Terry Zinkle. Meanwhile, Alistair is going to be able to take out the bottom lane Jinx, and making it a 1-for-1 play so far across the rift. Violet and Whistly now potentially in trouble, as Violet was able to flash away. Whistly gonna try to be able to get a kill against Alistair. No, they won't. Barely able to survive. A very chaotic stuff happening, not only on stream, but off stream with my dog.
I mean, I really gotta respect the like we talked about, the mental of agency going for these plays, and they quickly look very dangerous as fails does go down on Thresh, but they're able to keep going forward. Alistair holds the barrier for so long. Wistfully had used that super mega death rocket a little early, so wasn't able to get the execute on Broken after the turret dive. But even with the score lines being a little lopsided, we are seeing the Aphelios able to keep up almost in items, only not having those boot and components. Has the Yuntal stacking, Nautilus has items, has those symbiotic souls starting to go as Terry Tinkle continues to just kind of get hand-checked in this top lane as Garen continues to just fish for kills, try and find scenarios where he can manufacture a solo, even a 1-for-1. This Garen will take at this point, because something we didn't really talk about as much in the draft in this top lane matchup specifically is Vladimir's going to be able to be useful throughout the game, but Garen in a 5v5, unless they hit some CC from Nunu or from Thresh, it's going to be mostly side lane pressure that this Garen is able to bring to the rest of the game.
As we can now take a look to see, kind of the aftermath of that. Did get a kill on the board for Terry Tinkle, did get a kill on the board for Alistair, so they are being able to pick up some of those early items. The Yuntal is going to be completed for all three of the AD members. Hold on though, Dopa going in with the flash. Dopa's in trouble. Oh boy, Dopa tried to go in for an all-in, but I don't even think they thought it was going to be an all-in at the start of that engagement.
I believe they might have tried to flash over that EQ from Hui, the fear projectile, but just not timing it right, so ends up flashing right on top of it. And I certainly did mean when I said what I said on your chest, Lonry doesn't make mistakes, doesn't try and force for advantages, but if you just jump and flash in their face and get feared, he is going to take full advantage, and he is going to pick up the kill. He's gotten 3 turret plates as Dopa TP's behind, trying to find an advantage, but just immediately gets feared once again as Lonry shows absolutely no fear.
Oh boy. And we've got ourselves, I think, another one of the starts for Akuma to route this game. Hold that thought, though. Wistfully is going to get obliterated by all of the kitchen sink that Sting and Alistair were able to go for. Meanwhile, Violet is going to be able to take out a Broken in the top lane. We got Terry Tinkle falling to cheeks. We've got the Dragon going to Akuma. And now we've got another fight happening as Violet's able to get another kill against Dopa, making this a 3-for-0 exchange, or 3-for-1 exchange across the rift. Dragon goes to Akuma.
I mean, I don't know if it's just that they're not as ahead as last game, but it feels like they're playing a little bit cockier and making some uncharacteristic mistakes. Wistfully dying there is legitimately just, like, not thinking. Like, okay, Thresh has left the lane. He did throw down a lantern, but they have so much CC as flash forward from Broken is surely going to be able to pick up a kill. And again, you're overextending with no vision, nowhere, no idea where the enemy jungler is. And you're starting to see some of the cracks that Agency have been praying would start to show. And you've got to start wondering, for Akuma, are they going to tighten it up, or are they going to continue to just kind of hand check and ego check this team?
I mean, I think that that's kind of already come into play with Dopa going for that very awkward teleport, only for them to get nothing out of that exchange. You have to wonder, has the Agency just said we're going to try to go all in and maybe try to find just anything out of this one? And the lanes are going to start to get unlocked here with Cheeks, the top lane Cheeks, being able to pick up that tier 1 tower. Not as much gold advantage for Akuma, but there is still the objective bounties for the Agency at this point, and they're looking to extend that as well, as they are able to pick up the inner or the outer tower in the mid lane as well. There's no other neutral objectives to pick up, as Akuma has already been able to pick up 6 of the Void Grubs, but now Garen might be in trouble, as they are going to be in a 3v1 fight. Forces out 2 flashes to do it, but hey, it is another kill for Alistair, now 3-2 on this Aphelios.
Yep, very, very well executed draft. They layered all the CC, did not give Garen even a chance to get out. Did have to match flash for flash, but you'll take that trade to keep getting these kills, get that turret gold into the Aphelios' pocket, as well as the bounty gold. And a lot of the swaps you're seeing might seem a little bit telegraphed. It might seem like Akuma's doing this every game, but it does make sense to get that Jinx in the mid lane, as now we're seeing Violet getting collapsed on.
Cataclysm going in, but they're right inside the absolute zero. Going to be down to about half HP. Thresh going to land the death sentence on the Sting. Going to pop the box as well to get the slow, as Whistly's going to be waltzed right into this engagement. Not able to land the zap, and the death sentence doesn't land either, so no further happening as of yet. Violet now going to come through, going to be able to get a little bit of damage on this minion wave. They might be looking to go for this inner tower here as the reward for pushing off those members and getting them back to base. The wave clear from Terry Tinkle is just enough for them not to be able to do that.
You bring the mid laner up to this top lane because the wave clear is too much for Vladimir to deal with, and you move Cheeks bot because you know that they're most likely going to match Jinx Thresh mid, and the reason you bring the Jinx Thresh mid is because Jinx needs gold, and the easiest way for Jinx to get gold is by clearing mid lanes for free, as Cheeks going ballistic under this this outer turret. I think that he just didn't want to have to wait in time to recall and just decided to take the quick trip back to the fountain.
And it would have been better had they been able to get the kill against Dopa. It would have been better had they been able to get the kill or the tower going down. But the rest of Akuma was able to pick up the Rift Herald, but they might actually die for it as 2 kills go over to Alistair. That's the Moonlight Vigil coming down. Alistair's being able to get a lot. And it looks like they're going to try to get more. The teleport's going to be coming through from Terry Tinkle, and it is going to be the Thresh coming down as well. Alistair would love to be able to get another kill here, and it does look like they will be able to get it. Yes, they will. That was 6 and 2 Aphelios. That is a dangerous sight that Akuma's going to have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, this Alistair on Aphelios is getting sniped, is what I was always going to say. It's what I was always predicting. But Aphelios is this guy's champion. And a little unlucky there, getting sniped by Wistfully. But I think that they are playing much more cohesively. It seems like in game 1, they tried to play stock standard comp draft. And when you're playing against Akuma and just getting hand checked all game, you really can't afford to play that way. So now they go hyper early game jungler, they go the safest top lane matchup they can think of, and they just give their 2 best players in Dopa and Alistair scaling AD carries that can just wait out the game and try and take over once we get into this mid game that you talked about being so important for both of these teams. Looks like the second dragon finally going to go down, as on your chest, little cutout here.
Oh boy, gonna pop the ultimate, and now here comes Violet, here comes Wistfully, here comes Jinx, here comes the biggest snowball ever, and that's gonna be Akuma being able to pick up the dragon, and they're gonna be able to pick up Broken as well, as Wistfully is able to get that lock on Rocket, and will be able to get a double kill now, 5-1-1. The Oceans will bring life, and for the agency, life is gonna have to be brought into this game now. As I will get a point in the dragon game, it is going to be that Ocean Soul. But unfortunately for the agency, it feels like it's going to be a little bit of a repeat of game 1 here, Jack. As an inner tower, all inner towers are now gone. An inhibitor tower is looking to go down even before the 20-minute mark, and they're looking to potentially go for more here, Jack, as the inhibitor falls as well as Sting. They might be trying to go for it. No, they will back away for now.
It's just so hard for Sting to play this game, to do anything on Nautilus. You've got to go in, and you're going into Hwei, Nunu, Jinx. They're just going to tear you to shreds. And when you look at the 2 fed AD carries, I think even if your Aphelios player is incredibly gifted at the champion, you're always going to rather have the Jinx over Aphelios in this situation. So you've got to try and find a way to get Wistfully dead as soon as possible. And the way that play started was just Sting and Broken getting caught. They didn't have all their members bottom lane. They knew that Akuma had grouped around the dragon, and yet they still tried to go for the pick onto on your chest. And once they're not able to get that kill immediately, they just get collapsed on so quickly. because of that one cloud dragon. I know having the stats from those singular dragons does really matter when you look back retrospectively at some of these plays, and also having Nunu able to just roll that snowball down. You have to be able to one-shot the target, and Jarvan is a champ that can facilitate massive leads for their laners, but even as early as 20 minutes, this champion's damage starts to fall off hard.
Oh yeah, and yes, you do have that Infinity Edge now. Yes, you do have the Yintals on your Aphelios, but you've got to be able to get the multi-man like you're in some of those earlier skirmishes, and you can't get a cut out here. Gonna be having to force that flash away, as Whistly's gonna be able to take one. That's gonna be a double over Whistly. Gonna try to be able to stay alive, unable to do so. With Dopa and Broken trying to be able to go in, they will be able to get that shutdown onto the Jinx, but at the cost of 4 members of the agency. It's now just Terry Tinkle up against the rest of Akuma Pizza Cutters. They could look to go for the Otacon. They could look to go for an inhibitor. They could look to go for a Nexus turret. They could look to end the game.
I think they might look for the end. You got 4 seconds onto Sting, but they've been doing nothing but dying recently. You've got 10 seconds on Alistair. They're going to take the safest option. Just grab the turret, peel back and get vision, take these waves, look to take any camps that come up, and maybe even greed and stick around for the Otacon. As members of the agency start respawning, they have enough vision to see them coming, and they'll be able to peel off if they can't take it. But, I mean, you're just seeing what happens when you end up fighting these odd number fights. You have 2 AD carries with no frontline. They're just going to get melted and run down. And even though Dopa is able to find the kill onto Wistfully, it doesn't end up mattering all that much because they just immediately get wiped as well. And now looking for a play here.
We'll see if they are able to get anything out of this play. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to do it. It's on your chest. And another multi-man ultimate coming out from Violet. That is 4 members of the agency dead once again. It is just Broken with their team broken and back at the Nexus, dead and looking to potentially end this game. We are going to be at match point at record pace here, Jack.
A 23-minute win game 1 and looking like a 22-minute win in game 2. You may have had to wait a couple of extra weeks, but it looks like we are headed towards the outcome that many, if not all, predicted as Akuma go up 2-0 match point.
Wow, very strong performance once again from Akuma. This is looking to be never in doubt. And remember that they got into the grand finals by winning against their semifinal opponent. They won against their quarterfinals opponent. The 2 teams that faced off in the redemption match last week either lost in the quarterfinals or lost in the semifinals, with the agency being able to come back and take that series win. Unfortunately, it is looking like Akuma is the dominant team here. And if you're the agency, you've got to be finding some different angle to come back out of this one and give yourself the win. Regardless, we're going to be jumping into that draft here in just a moment. We got some technical difficulties we got to fix once again. But when we come back, we'll be back into that draft for game 3. We'll see you soon. Welcome back, everybody. We are now back for game 3 between the Akuma Pizza Cutters and the Agency. With Akuma Pizza Cutters, I think showing that they want to be the team that is the absolute dominant pick for the best team in the AML this season, and they are one win away from doing that, having an absolutely flawless series so far here in the AML Grand Finals against the Agency. It doesn't really seem like they're doing much of anything wrong.
Yeah, and it really makes you think back at the entire split they've had. They dropped 3 games all split. That's including playoffs. And I'm pretty sure, I know at least 2, but I think all 3 of those games may have come with emergency substitutes. So this is a team that, with the roster we see today, has not dropped even a game against anyone. So you can say like, oh, well, it's expected, but I think that credit should even be given there, because when you have a heavily favored matchup and it's close, then you have to start thinking, well, why was it so heavily favored if they can't just smash them? And Akuma are smashing them. They, like, the first game, barely even contested. Second game, they had a bit more agency in the draft, the Agency there. But this third game, you know, we've got quite a lot of stuff taken off the table. And I think the Agency are going to have to take any limiting factors they've got off and just give their guys whatever is the most comfortable champions possible.
At this point, you have to. You just have to say, hey, if we're not going to be able to win this series, let's just try to win a game. And if we can't win a game, let's try to have the game that we're in be at the most advantageous state that we can. You have to start small. You have to take those steps necessary in order to, you have to learn to crawl before you can walk, basically, at this point. And so don't be looking at a potential game 4. Don't be looking at, a potential Baron fight that might win you the game. Just look to get out of laning phase at a decent state. Make sure that you're not falling behind and giving kills unnecessarily over to your opponent. And let's see if you can draft that and see if maybe that is the ticket for you to then use that even game state moving into the mid game that can give you those advantages to move into the late game and beyond. Going into the draft, same bands once again coming in from these two teams, as Akuma is going to be back on blue side for this one, and they're going to be going for a bit of an unorthodox draft here. I think that they're allowed that with the performance that they've had, with Pantheon Galio being their first 2 picks, and the Agency going to go with the Ari and the Caitlyn. I think maybe a little bit spoilers coming in for the producer with the Galio getting picked first.
Yeah, I like the Ari pick right away. Gives Dopa a lot of agency. This champion did receive some nerfs to the kit because the Rod of Ages build was getting a little too oppressive, so they kind of wanted to position Ari back into burst mage status, but still strong champ. I like Caitlyn for Alistair. I've seen him perform on that champ already quite well, and just gives you a lot of safety, gives you a safe laning phase, a lot of stuff you can play around. And for Akuma, Pantheon, Galio, Victor is a very clear game plan for them. They want to firmly establish that they think they are the better players. So let's just pick 5 champs that can right-click forwards and blow up your entire team. And Pantheon, Galio are an incredible combo at doing so. Victor gives you some security that if Pantheon and Galio, if they start falling behind, they can just act as frontline and let Victor just start ripping spells from behind. But I kind of like what the Agency are picking into that, because you've got Xin Zhao, which can mitigate a lot of that damage with the Crescent Guard, and Caitlyn, which can stay far enough behind and set up that trap line to keep herself safe when you have these impending threats.
And we move into the second phase of pick bans, I think, with a little bit of questioning. Where is Akuma going with this composition? I think, it could very well possibly be Pantheon jungle, Galio top, Victor mid. But all 3 of these champions can go top lane. All 3 of these champions can go mid lane. And Pantheon can even go into the jungle, and Victor can even go into the bottom lane as well as Galio support role. So there's a lot of flexibility that's coming in right now for Akuma in this draft for agency. For what we've been seeing pretty much the entirety of this contest, we know exactly what they're doing when they draft things. Moving into the second phase of bans, the Volibear going to get taken away once again. This time the Kha'Zix is going to get banned, as well as the Karma.
There's one champ the agency have to pick right now, and I wrote it down as we were going over those bans so that we could have it established. They got to pick Riven. Terry Tinkle has been struggling throughout every game of every series. He's able to always be effective, at least in whatever capacity his champion is able to be. Let's give this guy his champ. He's got over 80 games played this year alone. Braum is boring. It's really good, and it's really good into Akuma's team comp they've built so far. But Terry Tinkle is getting last picked. There are very good top lane bans already down. Gragas, Tryndamere, Volibear. You know you're probably going into a matchup that just doesn't have a ton of lane threat. If it's Galio, it takes so much mana, and in a top lane matchup, you just don't have squishy enough targets to actually kill in lane. I'm not, I'm saying that before I watched Terry play, so maybe I'm going to be proven wrong, but with Rakan being locked in, generally seen as a counter into Braum, so it fits in the lane, it also fits in the comp of just everyone having tools to get into the team and blow up, whether it's the front line or the back line. I think the agency have built as good of a comp as they could, but if they try to get, I think Kaisa could go very well here. I think that we still have Ezreal available, which could kind of just be kind of a band-aid. I know that Wistfully is so good. It is going to be Urgot for Wistfully, most likely, or excuse me, Victor for Wistfully, Urgot sent up. They are, Akuma, they have earned the right to go crazy. And Terry, I don't know if that's it. I don't know if Kale's it.
Hey, but you know what? That Kale has been banned out in the other two games, so give them the opportunity to play Kale here. If you're able to get it, if you're able to find the secret sauce in a Kale versus Urgot matchup, granted in other grand finals that we played where it has been clearly a rout in the first two games, we have been seeing some special picks go into some different lanes. We've seen Yasuo bottom lane. We've seen some crazy top lane picks coming in. So it could be Urgot going into that bottom lane with the Rakan, and then you have a Galio going into the top lane. But I think, probably traditionally we'll be seeing that Victor go down to the bottom lane paired up with the Rakan. So that would mean that the Galio then gets that roam potential once they get level 6 with that Grand Entrance paired up with the Grand Starfall from the Pantheon. So another really strong, high engaged composition from Akuma that really hasn't been able to show off the power of the full composition just because they have had such good individual prowess so far in this series. But I think once again, shout out has to go to the coaching staff or to the players drafting on Akuma. It's still a composition that can work wonders throughout all stages of the game.
Yeah, and as hyper flexible as it may seem, where it's just, let's just grab a bunch of champs, we'll figure out where they go at the end. But like you mentioned, there is a lot of cohesion. Rakan, Galio, Pantheon all have the same goal, all can help each other do it. The Victor does provide a steady damage source that doesn't necessarily want to go forward but can, and obviously Urgot is going to love any champion that can lock down a target and allow them to just fire so many bolts in. I think the agency have a decent team comp in a vacuum. It might not be great into Akuma. I was already nervous about the Ahri pick when the Pantheon was first picked, because the only thing that Ahri really doesn't like is point and click CC that will stop her from dashing and trying to find openings. But if Brahmins and Zhao can hold the line, if Ahri can distract and find flank angles, and if they can stall this game, which, reminders, first game 1 was 23 minutes, game 2 was 22 minutes. If Kale can scale and get to level 16, and if Caitlyn can set down the trap lines and establish positions on dragons, then maybe we could make it to game 4.
And I'd love to see it. I'd love to see this series continue. But Akuma, I think they're locked in. They want to be the grand prize with $1,300 on the 1,300 change. I'm sorry, $1,200, $1,230 on the line here for the winner. Comparatively, second place gets $380. So you're looking at almost an $800 difference between first and second. Akuma Pizza Cutters are locked in. And I don't know if the agency are going to be allowed that opportunity. As I've been saying throughout this entire draft, it's been evident in games 1 and 2. Akuma has been able to expose cracks in the early game of their opponent and then just blow the game wide open so that objective bounties are there at that 14-minute mark. We'll see if they're able to do that again here in game 3. But let's go ahead and jump into the Dragon Draft once again. It was an Ocean Soul in game 2, which means Jack, you get to go first.
I am going to select Infernal first. I last game, I think we had 2 dragons taken total. We didn't even... Oh, no, we did get to the 3. We got to that Ocean Soul. I don't know if it was actually taken, but we got there. But this game, I think that maybe, you know what? They see the scaling on agency. Maybe Akuma decides to play more reserved, so I'm going to go Infernal.
And I've lost all hope for Hextech and Chemtech in this season. There's no way there was one. I'm going to go with Cloud, and I'm going to go with Mountain.
All right, I'm going to hear you and agree with you, but take my lucky charms in Hextech and Chemtech. They've gotten me this far.
Sounds good, and that's going to leave me with the Ocean Soul for what could be the final game of this grand final series and the final game of the AML Winter 2025 split. Can the agency pull back and push back against what could be a 3-0 route, or will Akuma Pizza Cutters be a quick and decisive grand champion of this split? We'll find out in just a bit, folks. We'll see you soon. Welcome back, everybody, here to Game 3. Match point for Akuma Pizza Cutters with their great logo coming into what could be their final game and their series-ending victory against the Agency. The Agency have drafted champions that they are familiar with, that they love, and a composition that can indeed work. The question is, will they get to a game state where they can capitalize on these great champions and abilities?
Yeah, because Caitlyn needs some items to really fully utilize the damage that can come out of those headshots, as well as Ahri only really facilitates without a lot of damage. Xin Zhao's strong early, going to be okay in that 1v1, but Pantheon is obviously a very volatile champion, and KO is just going to take forever. And we've seen what happens when people pick Kale into Cheeks and just hope to scale. We saw it in the DDG series. Troy played it and just figured we can just stall out, wait to get ahead, but wasn't able to do so. No ward dropped in Tribrush, so while both Victor and Rakan sat in that bush, they are not going to see this late invade. They are going to know something's going on when they see the bottom lane of Agency come from that spot, but far too late for them to act on. And now they've set up a cross map to try and punish the low mobility on Victor and take advantage of this AP carry selected in the bottom lane.
Great mobility, I think, coming out of Cheeks there. Going to be able to avoid getting hit by that final bit of passive by Sting. Trying to land those passives, trying to land those concussive blows, trying to land the winner's bites in order to potentially put Cheeks and Whistly into a tough situation. And at the start of the game, when Victor's doesn't have a lot of AP and Cheeks doesn't have a lot of mana and cooldown reduction, you could be seeing them be pushed out very much so. And I think that's what we're seeing so far, especially with the threat of Broken in the area. But meanwhile, in the top lane, you've got the Urgot that is doing exactly what we think that they're going to do against a Kayle at the start of the game, which is dominate.
Yeah, already pushing in. Wasn't even bothering to move. Just hit the S key and locked on the autos and just clicked on Terry until they had to retreat back under turret. Doing a decent job getting farm under turret, but Cheeks happy to just freeze this lane in front of the turret, force the Kayle to farm and try and continue to fight against their own turret, taking a lot of that CS. Starting with the Doran's shield, excuse me. Very smart for this early game. Cheeks will go under turret, but so much damage with that press the attack already. And Violet, she's up here just going to snipe. Doesn't get it to land, but now Lonery on your chest is also coming up. And guys, this is really not necessary.
Is Terry Tinkle gonna see if they can delay as much as possible? If I were Broken, I'd try to get to that Scuttle Crab. I'd try to see if you're able to get any more out of it, because so much happening in the top lane with so much time getting expended there. Violet is low, and we also saw Dopa go for the emergency teleport topside. I think that that's going to have to mean that Terry's going to have to go into the mid lane here to try to secure those minion waves. But while all of that time was being expended, Broken going to be able to pick up that Scuttle Crab, looking to potentially get some more, and we are not going to be seeing that teleport mid lane from Terry Tinkle. Instead, they're going to go back into the mid lane, walking away, but not yet being able to go back.
Yeah, luckily the lane was frozen in front of Akuma's mid lane turret, so didn't have the full push in. Already had a bit of a CS advantage utilizing that ranged matchup. Now, I am a little surprised that Broken didn't just sprint down to the bottom jungle and grab that other Scuttle Crab. I hope that they go for it now, because that would prove a very big advantage. As you're seeing the strength of the Caitlyn Braum when it comes to being able to push and walk forward, but you're also seeing the security. You put down that gravity field, and anyone who doesn't get caught in it, Rakan's just going to knock you up and dash back to Victor. So very safe bottom lane pick. I think there might have been a tinge of thought that after the last game where the Aphelios Nautilus was able to find some advantages, they wanted to try and play something a little bit safer and try and prevent Alistair and Sting from even having a chance to solo or duo kill either of these champs.
And here's something that I'm going to try to maybe get your opinion on this, because I think that something that the agency needs to be doing is trying to find a way to establish leads, because you know that Dopa is going to be in the mid lane against On Your Chest, and Violet going to be in a little bit of a different state of the game because they spent so much time trying to go after that kill against Terry Tingle that did not come to fruition. What about trying to go for Dragon?
Yeah, you got to try and go for something. It's not enough to hope the other team doesn't gain an advantage by playing safe. They're just too good. They're going to find a way. You have to try and punish, but also find advantages yourself. You have to take risks. You have to play aggressive. And right now, they've already given up on the cross map. So they allowed Violet to come back and take all of the bot side camps again, even almost finding a gank angle in the bottom lane. So now we're just going back farming business as usual. Xin Zhao is going to be slightly ahead on CS once they fully clear all of their camps, but you essentially just wasted that early game prio you had. You never dove, you never continued that cross map, you didn't utilize the bot push that you had to invade further. And Pantheon is a very surprisingly squishy champion early. Does have that shield to block incoming damage, but once that goes down, you're just a sitting target. And I do feel like in this game 3 situation, it's not enough to play safe and to set yourself up to not get outplayed. You also have to find advantages. And Dopa, in this counter matchup where you win into the Galio, I think they needed to maybe put some more focus into that lane as well.
And we'll see if another fight is going to go into favor of the agency here, as Cheeks is going to be put down. Dash away. This is going to be a 2v2. Violet is not yet level 6, but here comes On Your Chest, coming in with a little bit of damage. Invulnerability going to go in from Broken, going to be able to get a lot of damage onto Cheeks, but a great hit onto the Fear Beyond Death is going to get denied because Dopa and Broken are there just in time. The agency is going to get first blood and going to pick up 2.
Great rotations by the agency, understanding that any skirmish is going to be met by Galio, so Dopa has to proactively move as well, knowing that they can't just give up those kills and feed into the Urgot, and Pantheon able to just barely get the kill onto Urgot before Terry Tinkle is destroyed and ground up by that Urgot ultimate Fear Beyond Death. And, you know, I don't want to be a Akuma Glazer, but great snipe by Urgot to try and grab that one kill, just steps up 2 forward. I think this Xin Zhao champion is very, very strong in general. And Broken is, you know, if we for a moment forget these past 2 games and just look at the lineups on paper, Broken is one of, if not the strongest players on this team, and now looking for another kill on Cheeks, trying to accelerate Terry Tinkle.
Gonna be able to land this slow. The Audacious Charge lands, but they're gonna get slowed. Oh boy, Cheeks outplaying Broken. A little bit of commentator's curse there, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know what to do. The agency, I like the idea, I like the play, but when you're not able to land any of the damage before the Urgot retreats to turret range, you're going to be able to repeat gank over and over and over again. So you can just be happy getting the flash out and then just leave, go take a grub or 2. I don't think enough teams take like 1 or 2 grubs and then just leave, maybe even clear your camps, and then just go right back and re-gank, because you know Cheeks is going to get aggressive, going to push forward. Terry trying to find a solo, but gets charmed.
Oh, the quickness is huge. Grand Starfall coming in from Violet, not needed at all, which means that they could try to go for the remaining Void Grubs here, Jack, in the top lane. Meanwhile, Broken, knowing that Violet goes for that Grand Starfall, this is the time to try to go for that Dragon and get yourself a slight advantage in the Dragon game while they're going for that other neutral objective.
Yeah, have to cross map, and not just going for the Dragon, but trying to find a kill.
And we'll see if they're able to do it. The teleport's going to be coming in from On Your Chest a little bit too late there, as it is going to be a double teleport coming in. Cheek's gonna come through, gonna be able to get a knock up in onto Sting and on to Broken, but the charm is going to land from on your chest. The Fear Beyond Death is there. That is 3 teleports. Two teleports, pardon me, coming in from Akuma to be able to get back into the bottom lane. No dragon taken by the agency. That is the 3rd teleport now coming in from Wistfully. That could have been, I think, so much better for the agency had they had just a little bit more coordination on what they wanted to do.
They executed the dive very well, as they did in the last game. Alistair getting caught just barely, but going to be able to walk away. They execute the dive well, but they don't really know how to execute moving forward. There was another teleport. It was just on the opposite side of the map. Terry decided to use that time to go up top lane. Only 500 gold down despite those 3 kills in the favor of Urgot. Everyone is bottom lane trying to get this Hextech Dragon.
See who's going to be able to get it. The taunt's going to land in from Broken. Another Crescent Guard not landing onto anybody here. With 4 members of Akuma now in the bottom lane. Terry Tinkle, no teleport, is going to go right back up topside to go up against the Urgot. See if they are able to get any more. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case right now. And both teams just going to expend some ultimates. Neither team going to go for Dragon. I think maybe trying to avoid going for the Dragons here to avoid.
Yeah, I think they might have found the timer right here with Violet backing. This is their one real shot, even on a ward that Akuma just doesn't have the tempo right now to contest. Wistfully actually being super aggressive there by not respecting the numbers advantage. Cheek's finally going to head back up topside. Kale able to get 2 turret plates, able to get a good amount of farm, sitting on a very vegan build with those swiftness boots and some components for that Guinsoo's, it looks like. Going Guinsoo's first and not Nashor's Tooth. Looks like we're going to be getting an AD on hit Kale rather than that AP on hit into just full AP damage that you typically see. But, you know, this is a series where you're going to see builds like that. We often talk when Wistfully gets his hands on the Varus that they like to go for a bit more of an unconventional build as Terry just getting picked on up here.
Ultimate gonna drop, gonna be able to get a little bit of damage into on chest, but the Fear Beyond Death is there, and that's gonna be a rampage for the Urgot. What is the response from the agency here in the bottom lane? Wistfully and Cheeks now going to be up against each other. Wistfully does not have flash, is gonna go for the Chaos Storm, but is gonna go down to Dova, but is gonna be able to put Broken inside the Magnet Shield, but it will end up being a 2 for 2 as Cheeks ends up, the Rakan Cheeks, pardon me, is able to help finish the job. Wistfully also able to pick up a kill there against Sting, but Alistair with an ace in the hole and Dopa with their second kill, 3 stacks on that Dark Seal.
They executed that first dive very well. In game 2, they had a near perfect dive on the bottom lane when it came to layering their CC, but that one was quite botched, giving over 2 kills. They got really lucky because when Xin Zhao went in and popped the Crescent Guard, it knocked Rakan out of turret range, but they aren't able to turn their focus quick enough, and fails on that Rakan is able to flash under turret and force them to redive and go back into damage range. Braum fell, and also the Xin Zhao going down. We are seeing a full-on map flip here, where Kale and Galio now matching bottom lane. We're seeing the Galio go for this newer build that's proven so strong. Galio going for those symbiotic souls to have access to that empowered recall. Will be gone next patches. Violet, I mean, even when they're putting multiple members in her jungle, still managing to pick up those camps, get those smite steals. Like I was saying on this Galio, you're able to be such a side lane threat with the Hollowed Radiance, insta-killing every single wave. The Symbiotic Souls allow you to back and rejoin if you're not in ultimate range. But I feel like this new build has really unlocked Galio, because it's not just the ultimate. Like, you're fully able to utilize the fact that you can join a fight at any moment on the map.
Dopa and fails. The Rakan going to be in the bottom or in the mid lane here, going up against the Ahri. Void Grub skirmish going to happen as Cheeks is not going to land that Fear Beyond Death. Sing going to try to go for the Unbreakable to get away from the Chaos Storm, and indeed they will be able to do so. Brogan does have flash and will be able to get out of the pit, giving the rest of the Void Grubs over to Akuma Pizza Cutters. Meanwhile, fight is still going. On Your Chest is going to get hit by the charm, going to get hit by the stun, going to be down half HP, going to be down to dangerously low health, and is going to be able to get away. No ace in the hole right now for Alistair to land. And now we get to see what is next for the agency and what is their best game so far in the series.
And you are seeing glimpses of what this comp is drafted to do. Even with all of the engage from Akuma, they're flashing over walls, they're expending all of their mobility. Galio has the phase rush procced. It's still so difficult for them to get an angle onto this Ahri, and the Ahri is going full for the sustain even after the nerfs, still opting for that Roa build, going for more sustain, more survivability, more pick allows, or more health allows you to go for picks more often, but it will harm the damage. You've got Kayle top lane though, so you already know you're gonna have good damage later in the game. Terry is kind of pushing that spike later by going for this Guinsoo's first, but I mean, it's going to be so hard for them to get onto Kayle and Caitlyn. One of these members is going to have to step up, and Violet, she's taking a lot of damage, but able to just walk forward, still has the E available, knows that they can withstand a ton of damage taken from that Roa Ahri. And now you're kind of seeing the side effects of that deep dive that they took after the Void Grubs, because there's so much vision in this red jungle that they're able to really confidently push forward, push this top lane forward, and Galio just insta-killing every single wave.
But Dopa gonna go for the phase rush here, looking to see if they're able, Spirit Rush, gonna see if they can potentially get On Your Chest down, as On Your Chest is now going to be inside the minion wave, is getting to be relatively fine, as Whistly is going to come in, the Chaos Storm is going to land, and Dopa with no more Spirit Rush procs will lose all of those Dark Seal stacks to Whistly, who picks up their third kill, and also gives a shutdown over to the Akuma AD. Meanwhile, the Rift Herald was taken by Akuma Pizza Cutters as well, and the agency a little bit late to starting the second dragon of the game. Looks like they might be able to get it, but at what cost? Yeah,
they're going to lose at least their mid-outer turret after an uncharacteristic mistake by Dopa, just kind of not thinking about the potential collapse with all of that vision. They do get that mid-turret, and Ocean Dragon will be our soul, as Terry Tinkle is just trying their very best to wave clear topside into this Victor. Sting might be in for a world of hurt walking into 3 members, but is able to just stand back, take some of that poke. I don't think they're going to be able to execute this collapse as the red buff is stolen, and that secondary red buff going on to Fails' Rakan. Gonna try and make a play here onto Broken, or maybe they're just gonna continue to try and strangle out any objectives they can. And it just gets so difficult as a jungler at this point early in the game. It's only at 18 minutes. You're even in levels, but how do you securely take any of your own jungle camps, continue gaining XP and gold without running into all of the members of the enemy team? This has been by far Violet's quietest game, not even getting an assist from that Grand Starfall used topside. It was too late, but still able to make an impact and put Broken behind without showing up on the scoreboard.
And a lot of that is due to the neutral objectives that they were able take in the top lane. The Rift Herald, like you said, was taken to take that mid tier 1 tower, but they did not get the second headbutt. They ended up putting Sting and Alistair into the mid lane to be able to avoid the continued collapse of the Rift Herald into that inner tier 1 tower, or that inner tower in the mid lane. Meanwhile, Broken going to continue to be harassed inside their own jungle, but this time Terry Tinkle is there, and Cheeks Fails is coming in to make this a 2v2 play. Sting is on their way, but I don't know if you can continue to pursue this with Whistly now in the area and no vision. They will be forced to back away, so everyone will back off for the time being. For 20 minutes into the game, Autocon is about to spawn here. Neither team really prepared for it in terms of vision, but in terms of lane control, it's Akuma that has it right now, with that lane in top pushing forward so aggressively, and they're going to get a reward for that aggressive pushing there by the Urgot as the inner tier 1 tower goes down.
Yeah, they're trying to funnel as much as possible into Terry, continuing to rotate the Kayle in between lanes to get as much CS as possible, sitting at level 12, so 4 levels away from what would be the real breaking point for this champion. Still not enough gold for the Nashor's Tooth to come through and really start doling out a ton of damage with those auto attacks. I mean, just by far, obviously, the closest game. Gold at 14, difference was only like 500, and it's been much, much higher every other game, sitting at a 2k gold difference right now. 3k, excuse me. But Terry Tinkle safely under the turret, but Violet's going to change that.
And they're going to pop the ultimate, going to be able to get a little bit of damage. Cheeks. That's the one that's taking those turret shots, and that is a one tanky boy. They will be able to get out. The charm is going to land in onto On Your Chest, now going to be down to half HP. Ace in the hole, not going to be enough quite yet. They're going to go right back in for it, and Dova's going to be able to get that kill on to the Galio. But here comes the Rakan. Sing going to try to go for the Unbreakable. See if they're going to be able to get out. No, they won't be able to do so, as Whistly's going to go under a rampage. But here comes Alistair. This is a 3v2 once again, but now it's a 3v3 with Alistair being able to drop a Hex Tech Snap Trap, or a Yordle Snap Trap, make it a Pantheon Snap Trap, going down. Alistair's able to pick up another kill, and that's going to be a 3-for-2 play in favor of the agency.
That is the dangers of picking this Pantheon. It might seem like it's great engage, great fighting, but if you get CC'd, that E shield does not prevent CC, only damage. So ults right onto a Yordle Snap Trap, then gets charmed, and then can't get vision or range to W onto Caitlyn, who just got exploded by this Galio pick. Stayed around a little too long, greeted for a back in a dangerous spot. Otacon is up and available, so Ruinous Otacon could be taken right now. Victor isn't the fastest objective taker, but Urgot is in the area. They are moving Violet and Fails up here now, so it looks like they will surely be able to secure it. And, you know, honestly, most games, Ruinous Otacon is not something that I feel like teams are like desperate to get, but when you have Kayle, you really should be. And also Caitlyn. When you have Kayle and Caitlyn, two champions that scale so well with XP, you really should be prioritizing this objective. And I feel like if maybe they had been a bit less greedy, tried to back and open to the Otacon, they could have had a better chance, because now you do get the dragon, you are on soul point, but Kayle is still 3 levels away from that breaking point, and I mentioned being 4 levels away quite some time ago. Caitlyn is now a few levels away from having max W levels, so being able to put out 5 Yordle Snap Traps to really cut off all of these objectives. And fully charged Roa for Ahri, but Galio's been side laning so much that with that Ruinous Otacon, they are even in level. And let me tell you, if your opponent builds Roa and you're even in XP, that is a horrible, horrible state of the game.
And right now, I mean, Dopa, you know, does have 2 completed items and still 4 stacks on that Dark Seal. It's not necessarily the end of the world right now for the agency. And this is where I have been lauding them throughout this series. I think that their mid game is probably their best, and I want to see if they are able to do it. This is the best situation that they can be in terms of having an opportunity to be able to take this game and take it to a game 4. But now they're going to go into skirmish as Alistair is going to get stunned, is going to get knocked up, and is going to get obliterated by Wistfully. Who's next on the menu? It's going to be Sting, as On Your Chest is able to take out the Braum. Broken, going to go into the Crescent Guard, going to try to be able to stay alive. They will be able to survive in a fight that should never have happened because Dopa was not there, is going to result in your bottom lane being dead, another inner tower going down, and you're just going to be falling further and further behind Akuma Pizza Cutters on their way to winning this series.
It was a decent thought. You had Violet caught out way too deep, but I mentioned it a couple of games ago when they tried to collapse on the same exact situation, except it was On Your Chest Lonely on Hui in the bot side. If you find a target out of position and the enemy team is near, if you cannot one-shot that target, do not engage because you're just going to get collapsed on. Broken is seeing what that looks like right now. Walking up, no members of his team nearby, just gets insta-killed, and that's kind of the flip side. The team is present, but Akuma Pizza Cutters know that they can one-shot Broken, so they go for it and they do it. But now, when you have those disadvantageous fights, Alistair does not have a ton of damage right now, and the Grand Starfall, they're going to try and punish him.
And Alistair, with only the net to be able to get away, there's nothing more. End up going down. Terry Tingle does have some health, does have the invulnerability. Are they going to be able to take out Cheeks? Yes, they will, but it is going to be a 2-for-1 exchange with already a member of the team dead. It's now Dopa and Broken that are left to defend the Nexus, and it's an inhibitor tower in the mid lane now going down. Dopa's gonna go in and is gonna get charmed and knocked up by everything. Agency completely collapsing in this game. An opportunity for them to potentially take this to a game 4. I think slipping away here as the inhibitor in the mid lane is gonna go down, and Baron is up for Akuma to pick up.
You just said something, Baron. I haven't seen that objective in this series. I'm not sure I know what that is. But it does seem there is seeming to be another objective spawning in that top pit, and we haven't seen it yet this series, so I'm excited to see what that looks like for this game. But in all seriousness, I feel like they did have options, but if we look back into the draft phase, we maybe, as agency, you keep lauding correctly that these mid games, they are normally able to stem any bleeding and equalize the game, but they indexed so much into scaling with the Kale pick, and one level away from that 16 level power spike, has the 2 needlessly large rods, so working towards that Rabadon's, but with no vision, there is going to be no contest. Good. I'm glad they're not running and inting into the Baron, but Terry's farming ISO bottom lane, trying to get the money for Rabadon's, trying to get the experience for level 16. I feel like everything we've been saying, rightfully so, has been dangerous as Dopa running way too far forward.
Oh, gonna be able to avoid getting knocked up there by Dickman. Now the Quickens is gonna get dropped, and Dopa's extremely low. Gonna try to be able to get out, but he's gonna get knocked up, and there's a grand entrance from on your chest. That'll secure 3 members of the agency now dead. Terry Tinkle, not yet level 16, is now going to be forced to back to the base. Do they have enough gold to get the Rabadons? No, they do not. And with 3 members of the agency dead, Akuma is looking to become the grand champions here of the Aegis Marauders League. And Broken is going to go for Nice Crest to divide everybody, but Terry Tingle is not there, not able to land the invulnerability onto the Xin Zhao. The ace is going to land, Wistfully's going to get it, and it's going to be GGWP as Akuma Pizza Cutters are your AML Winter 2025 Grand Champions.
The Akuma Pizza Cutters have finally obtained what has felt like rightfully their championship trophy. Congratulations to Akuma. And I mentioned it last game, when you head into these heavily favored matchups, I feel like the only scrutiny ends up being on the favored team. Because if you win close matches, it turns into, well, why didn't you win handedly? They won handedly. They looked like a team that is, and I know this might be dangerous to say with some of the circumstances that happen in playoffs, but I think this is a team capable of even more. This is a team I'd like to see, what's next? Like, do we try and climb harder and see if we can get into bigger leagues? Do we try and maybe build some AML dynasty? Let's just come back and let's run it back up. I mean, the opportunities, this might be the end of this split, but I think that this is not going to be the last time we see Akuma.
Definitely so, and I think, that brings into question, the MVP for this series. I think we said it at the start of game 1, and I think that my assertion is still true, that it is between Violet and Wistfully, who is the MVP of this series. Both of them having huge impact across the 3 games. I ever so slightly think I have to give it to Violet. The only way Yeah, the only way that you're able to get kills, the only way that you're able to get gold in the early game is if you have a jungler that really is able to know what they're doing, maybe accelerate the game state for your lanes. And Violet was able to do that in all 3 of these games.
Yeah, it's tough because Wistfully performed so incredibly well in all 3 of those games. But I think, like you said, the slight advantage I get, because it's the nitpick stuff when you're picking an MVP between 2 near perfect performances. In game 1, I mean, Violet, she just, first blood, completely ran over the jungle when Umbral Glaive Poppy just ran the game. Game 2, there were certain new moments that I don't feel like got as much credit because they were so far ahead, but she was flanking, she was loading up the snowball to run all the way through a lane to get behind them, had so much pressure in every single lane, helped stop the bleeding that Aphelios was starting to get kills. And in this last game, I understand that the scoreline wasn't very impressive for a majority of the early game, but considering that she got cross-jungled, she was getting just completely pushed into the jungle, no prio bottom lane, able to stem all of that bleeding and get an advantage of their own. Extremely impressive. I'm going to have to agree with you. Violet, MVP of the series.
And I also want to give a shout out to the agency here, the other grand finalist team. They will end up taking the silver prize for this tournament. I mean, shout outs to them for having the tenacity to be able to come back after losing their first semifinals matchup, to be able to win 3-0 and give us another series. Obviously, it did not go the way that they had planned, but I think we saw what could have happened in game 3 had they had just a little bit more finesse in the early game of this series. If you're able to go out of the early game without giving so much advantage over and give yourself some great lane and item states, you can really put any team into a run for their money. And then that is when those carries that you love to comp with are then able to really shine. We just, unfortunately, we're not able to see that today because the Akuma Pizza Cutters really knew exactly what they needed to do, and that was just obliterate them in the early game and start that snowball. We saw it in all 3 games, a little bit less in game 3, but I still think we saw it in all 3 games there, Jack. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to go into a post-game interview with some of the members of Akuma Pizza Cutters. We'll be back in just a bit. Welcome back, everybody. We are here with Violet, the finals MVP of Akuma Pizza Cutters, and Hades, part of the coaching staff of the team. Guys, welcome and congratulations on your grand finals win.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
For that.
Perfect. Go ahead, Violet.
It's just been a great experience to work with this team. It's been a great time, and I had a lot of fun this season too.
It definitely looked like you guys were having fun, especially as the series started to look like it was going to be a rout. But I want to start my first question here with you, Hades. Akuma, an established organization between the amateur and semi-professional scene here at League of Legends. You guys have got finals appearances, grand finals wins under your belt, and we know the importance of coaching staff. And I think one of the things that was so evident of that was your ability to draft. I think, in our opinions, for this series in particular, the flexibility that your drafting created was very strong. Is that just due to your knowledge of the game, or is that due to the players having so many champions at their disposal, a combination of both, or is it something else?
I mean, I think it's about a combination of both. My players are very flexible. They've played, they've practiced a lot for this. We did have a lot of pre-talks before the games about what we were expecting from drafts, what we were expecting from the other team, and what we would draft into it. And I think it's really just, I'd say it is more on the players, though, and them being so flexible and able to just go into any role. Especially, I really Cheeks, my top laner, and my support. They're both very flexible with that they can pick, and he plays a lot of champions that he can move around with, and he succeeds on all of them.
And I want to follow up with that one. Is there a particular moment in the draft, in this draft, that you were very proud of, being like, oh yeah, this is the answer to what the agency was going for?
I think one of our better picks was the Olaf in the first game. I think it really got us going. It really had top lane have such a strong lead and able to play into the late game with that Olaf, who's pretty unstoppable, and I think that really led us into that win.
And it synergized so well with the Renata pick in that same rotation, as well as, I mean, that draft really was a masterclass in game one. You get the Poppy immediately into the Vi, really just ran everything. And that Poppy pick leads me, my question for MVP, I feel like they really threw everything at you. They tried hyper early game with Jarvan. They tried going for Vi, which is the highest presence jungler in competitive. And then last game, they split the map on you with the late invade. And yet, in every game, you found advantages, even as far as, if people haven't seen the clip already, game one, just invading and then killing Broken under the inner turret. Broken is seen as one of the better players on that team, if not in the league. So what was the confidence level going into this series?
I think the confidence level, it was pretty good. Since I do have a decent amount of comp experience, I'm just able to kind of understand those situations, have more experience in those. So I kind of might be able to read what the enemy might do in scenarios, and it just gives me a huge advantage when playing jungle.
Nice. And for Hades, I want to ask, when we're thinking about these drafts, obviously Cheeks top lane, like this guy seems to just play every single champion that can go top lane. And what is it like when you're drafting into a player like Terry Tinkle that tends to fall behind early? I want to know kind of what is the thought process. Are we just picking whatever? Are we, trying to think what they're going to pick? Or is it just kind of give Cheeks what he feels comfortable with and see how he wins the lane?
I think there's a lot of, it gives us the availability to pick something in top lane that's maybe not so good into the matchup, but could really have, if left free, could have a lot of power, someone who could scale well. But it's also really important on the jungle pick that someone that can abuse a top laner that we are able to put behind and just kind of eliminate from the game. Because if we have that going, then our team can just kind of roll. We're up a player almost, and we can just keep powerhousing through the game, keep our momentum going.
Fantastic. I want to do another rotation of questions here, specifically talking about this series in general. One more thing, some of the consistencies that I've seen, and I'd love to get your guys' opinion on it. And I guess specifically for you, Violet, because you were part of the games themselves. One of the things that we've noticed throughout the entirety of this season was Akuma's ability to be able to push waves, especially in the side lanes, forward, so that then when plays happened cross map, you still were able to have a response, whether it went your way or not. to be able to pick up damage on turrets, or even pick up turrets and pick up jungle camps against your lane opponent. What's the mindset for a jungler or for a team that is looking to improve their lane state in the mid game that they could try to implement?
I think it really does just come down to pushing sideways, because a lot in comp, a lot of newer players, they'll just try to group a bunch, but when in reality, you really just want to be pushing your sides, because pushing your sides means that you can make the play, and there's not going to be a real response, because you need minion waves to be able to do anything within the game.
Got it. Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough. And I think zooming out here, you know, this is obviously our winter split. I hope to see you guys, this roster, go for that repeat into next split. But I think nice fun question whenever you win an award like this and win a championship like this, you're getting your share of, I believe, $1,230. So Violet, what are you going to do with your winnings?
I will probably buy a new headset, because currently the one I'm wearing is quite broken.
There you go. I hope you get the best one available for your incredible performances all year long.
Thank you.
Definitely so. Yeah, and again, yeah, thank you guys so much for stopping by for this post-game interview. Before we let you go, Violet and Hades, any final words you want to present to us before we let you go?
I'd just like to say that, yeah, this split was very fun, and it is kind of sad that this will be my last split playing with them, because I have unfortunately ranked out of this league and will not be able to play in this again unless we move up.
Hades, anything from you?
I just want to say shout out to Lesser, who's my co-coach. I love him. You know, it's great working with him the whole season and working with the whole team. Proud of all y'all.
Love it.
That's it.
Well, hey, Violet and Hades, thank you guys so much for stopping by. Congratulations on being the winner 2025 AML Grand Champions.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And with that, folks, that is going to conclude this split of the Aegis Marauders League. Jack, any final words you want to give before we close the stream?
I mean, I just want to give an incredible thanks to not only Aegis, not only Caddy, every producer we had in here, every caster, yourself, Moose. Obviously, this was my first full split casting since 2022, and you guys made it so smooth. You helped me so much, and I really felt like, because of the great work you all put in, we really came together so fast, and I can't wait to come back next split. I can't wait to see what other Aegis opportunities I will have, and yeah, I just can't be more thankful for everyone here at Aegis and everyone who stopped by to watch.
Yeah, you know, this concludes my sixth season here at the AML. It's been a ton of fun. Jack, I'll say it. I love Septi to death. I love the other casters that I've played with, but I think you and I really had an incredible energy throughout this season. And I look forward to being able to do that in the future. And speaking of the future, not really sure what's happening next for us as a duo, but please make sure that you guys are in the Discord to stay up to date on where you guys will be seeing us next, whether it be at the AML or at something else. AML is still going to be coming in for next split. Be sure to be in the Discord so you guys can go for the signups for the next split, the next season here of Aegis League of Legends Esports. As Jack said, shout out to Caddy, our producer, who has been here every week trying to make things happen despite having so many technical difficulties throughout this season. It was a nightmare for sure, but pulling through it. Shout out to Benjamins, shout out to Sherry, shout out to Ivar, and shout out to the rest of the Aegis Esports team for making sure that they are staying on top of whatever comes their way, making sure that we're able to provide you with the best casting and League of Legends experience that we can provide. And on that note, thank you again so much for watching week in and week out. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks for the next season of the AML and of the Aegis Esports Leagues. See you soon.
The market.
The market.
The market.
The market.
The market.
The market.
ありがとう
ございます。
ありがとう。
ありがとうございます。
Tell me where do I go? Tell me where do I take